I played Mr. Chess Journeys himself, Dr. Kevin SCULL, in round two of the DMV Adults Only Tournament. He's usually in California, but he's on spring break, so he's here in Virginia. And yeah, I had white again, and once again, I played a fantasy variation of the Karakhan. And, in the last game, my opponent, he took on e4 and played e5. Kevin went for a more solid approach, which is just to play e6. And when I bring my knight out, bring his bishop out. So developing pieces, solidifying the center, pretty principled chess. I played a3. And this is a gambit line. And it's really, really fun because he takes on c3, takes on e4. If I take back, that's disastrously bad because queen h4 check ruins my day. So I go knight h3, and then he takes. So I'm fully down a pawn, fully down a pawn. And in the past, I've seen people do a variety of different moves. I've seen people go queen h5, queen d5, and queen f6. Kevin played queen h4 check. This seems like a pretty reasonable move, and the fantasy variation sucks, so anything's playable. So g3, I played g3, just hitting the queen. I actually wasn't sure if I wanted to do that. I thought a long time about knight h2, or sorry, knight f2, just blocking the check that way. But I just wasn't sure if that was actually better than anything else I had. Like, yeah, I'm just really not sure. If I wanted to let his queen stay there. So I like how g3 forces the queen to move. But then now I have to move my queen, and it's actually not super clear. Like if I move my queen to the center, then if he moves his queen, he can develop his knight with tempo. If I move my queen to g4, I can get hit with h5. If I block, then if I block the queens from seeing each other, then he can play h6 g5. I just wasn't really sure I wanted to do that. Like for example, knight f4 g5 right away actually is pretty bad for me. So I ended up deciding to go queen g2. I thought it was the most principled approach. Principled as in easiest way to avoid a queen trade. I did think for a long time on this move, for like 26 minutes, because I was calculating some really cool stuff. The main thing I was calculating was like what happens if he plays e5, which would be a pretty bold move to do considering he's only moved his queen. But it's really testing. Like it actually really there was some really cool stuff. For example, I could play bishop g5, and then he could remove the defender of my bishop. So if he takes my knight, and if I take his queen, then he takes my queen, and I take his pawn, so his rook is shot, but then he takes my rook, and I'm like, oh, I'm just down a piece. This is awful. So if I take back, and he takes my bishop, well, now I can go queen check on c8, queen takes on b7, and take on a8. And I was like, this is wild because now he has a check here. If I go here, then my rooks aren't connected. So if I go bishop here and then check here and then check here, well now my rooks are connected. So this is probably better for me. But I just wasn't sure, and I was thinking a long time on that. And then I saw that I had an alternative. Like after e5, I don't have to play bishop. Bishop g5. Of course, if I take, then that's really bad. Bad pawn structure. I'm in check. This is just not good. So instead of bishop d5, I could also just play bishop d3, and if he takes, I could go bishop f4, and now I can castle or play rook f1. So if he goes all in, for example, I can castle, and then if he goes check, I can just go here. And even if he goes here, like this has got to be at least okay for me, even though I'm down 3 pawns here. It looks very nice. Like even here, bishop e6, and maybe like queen or bishop e5 here looks kind of strong. Yeah, it looks kind of strong here. So I was calculating those things. He did not play e5 though. He played h6, which seems really slow, and especially because he hasn't developed any of his other pieces. So I developed my bishop to f4. So if he goes g5, then I can go bishop e5, but he plays knight d7. So I'm not sure if bishop f4 was actually the best idea, because I ended up having to move my bishop back anyway. So I actually wonder if bishop d3 was just better. And now if he develops his knight to e7, then I can go rook f1 maybe. And in this case, the queen is trapped with knight e7. So yeah, I did think I should have gone for that. She should have gone for bishop d3 immediately. But I played bishop f7, and I played knight f2, and I moved both of these pieces, this knight and this bishop, back. So I actually don't think this was the best plan. Um, but my idea was like actually just to get my knight to d6. But I, after he played queen d8, I reconsidered everything because like why am I even doing this in the first place? That's a real question. Because if I play knight e4, he just develops, and if I go check, he can go king e7 or king f8. And let's say he goes king e7. He said after the game that he would have gone king f8, which I think that's not as good, but I'm not sure. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Like like I just don't like the king's in the center, but my he's gonna win tempo on both my knight and my bishop. Like for example, if I just develop my pieces, but develop with bishop d3, he's threatening knight d5. Oh, well, knight d5 is a threat on my bishop because if he takes and I take back, he can take my knight with his king. King on d6. And so I would have to, and if I go forward, he can go f6. And I was like, wow, my pieces are just like stuck. All my pieces are stuck, stumbling over each other. Meanwhile, his position is solid and I can't really attack it. So yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like, even though not allowing him to castle feels pretty good, the fact that I'm underdeveloped and can't take advantage of it kind of negates how good it is, in my opinion. So he went queen d8. I just developed. He developed. I castled. He castled. And by this point, I'm down 45 minutes on the clock, maybe even 50 minutes on the clock. And then I I centralized rook. Here I really wanted to play g4, but I couldn't come to a conclusion on how bad it was because the main thing I was considering. Well, firstly I thought like maybe he'll go g5. That's a consideration. And then I could go bishop d6 and rook e8, and then I was thinking about like h4. And I thought this was pretty interesting, but he didn't have to play that move. I thought that was pretty interesting. He didn't have to play g5 though. I thought he could also play knight d5, and then if I retreat my bishop, then he could maybe go queen h4. That's one of the things he could do. I don't know how good it is for him, but it is interesting. Like if you go g5, I can take, and then try to get a knight here, or maybe even go knight here now. Yeah, knight f4 now. So then if I take, then the queen comes on h6. So that seems pretty good. I mean, this still might be better for me because his bishop and knight and rook aren't. Well, his bishop and his a rook aren't participating. So yeah. So I was thinking about g4 here, but I couldn't come to a conclusion after bishop d2. I'm trying to remember what I would have thought he would have done. Yeah, maybe like a move like e5 could be possible. Maybe this is still pretty good for me. Maybe I should have gone for g4 right away. It feels like it shouldn't work. I feel like it shouldn't work. But yeah, we both put a rook. After I go rook a1, he goes rook e8, and now I go for g4. So same thing. However, this rook on the e file is actually really useful. I can swing it to e3 and e4 and go to the h file or the g file. Um, so, so I actually think it's like this extra addition of us both putting our rooks on e8 was really nice. And the reason why I was able to make that decision was because if I play this move, I got to ask myself like what options does he have, and he doesn't really have that many good options. He can't play e5. He can't play c5. Well, he can if he does play c. Well, he can sort of play c5. If he plays c5, I'm going to play bishop d6. Or I could play bishop d6 and then take on c5. And I have tripled isolanos, but like my bishop's on d6 and it's solidified. So it's kind of appealing. I just don't know if it's actually good or not. It could suck, to be honest, but I don't know. But yeah, that's one of the things he would have to consider if he did play c5. I could also just ignore it and play g4, and then if he takes, then like okay, that's whatever. And if he never goes knight b6, then I can just go c3 and solidify my center again. So, So he doesn't really have any good moves. Is my point. I thought he might go b6 to gain some time. Like rook a1, b6, because if I do take, then he's gonna. Oh wait, he can't go rook b1. Oh, he can't go rook b1. Rook b8, I mean. Okay, never mind. Okay, but yeah, but I didn't think he could do much, so I just played g4. And then I went bishop back after we went knight d5. He put his queen on c7, and at this point, it's very clear that I should just be winning here. There's like no defenders on his king, and queen c7, eyes f4. So knight f4 is a threat. It would force me to lose the bishop pair. So I go knight h3. So I have three defenders on that one square. And here, once again, he might be able to consider g5 here. It looks really scary, and it should be losing. But it is interesting to say the least. Like I could definitely consider sacrificing my knight, which is a lot of fun, but I'm just not sure. So instead of that, he went c5, and then I went g5. So I want to ignore him as much as possible on the queen side because I'm trying to checkmate him. He plays h5. I play queen f3. Attacking h5, attacking f7. You cannot defend both. And so he plays knight f8 to guard laterally with his queen. And I take on h5. He plays g6. And now, once again, this rook cannot rook lift that easily on f3 or e4 to h4 because of the knight, and this square is guarded by his knight. But, however, well, he takes. I just take back. I was trying to calculate if rook e4 worked, but I think it got a little bit messy because then if he takes, then I can go here, and then let's say he just goes check here just because he can. Actually no, let's say he doesn't go check there. Let's say he goes f5 now, and then takes, and then I would go here. Then he would go here. I guess it's fine. But I just didn't like how the fact my bishop was hanging at the end. So maybe it's probably just fine if I do that though. Of course, if here I probably have this move. Probably have f7 because if he doesn't take, then I can trade and then promote. And then it's also guarded by my rook. So I probably could have just doubled up on h4, but I didn't want to calculate, so I just took on d4 because now all of his problems remain the same. So no reason to complicate things. I play rook e4, and yeah, this rook from a1 to e1 to e4 to h4, very nice, very nice. He played e5. I played rook h4, and he resigned. So what's really crazy about this game is that he never moved his a rook or his light squared bishop for the entirety of the game, and it really showed. It really showed. Yeah, there are a lot of interesting things to think about, and a lot of moves that we didn't play. I almost wish we did. There is an interesting move here, like f5 to delay checkmate. Because if I don't take en passant and if I just go check, he can go to f7, and his king is I actually don't have any checks without losing material. Like for example, I could give up my rook, but why am I doing this? And because I didn't take en passant, his king is actually pretty safe. So if he plays f5, I kind of have to take. And then if he goes queen h7, I guess I just have queen g5, I guess. Or no, once again I have f7. Once again I have f7. But I thought after here he'd go king f7. And I guess I do have this check, but I actually don't see where it's getting me. I have another check, but once again I don't see where it's getting me. I guess I could go f7 in this case. Or I could also give... Yeah, I kind of want to go f7 here. f7, rook e7. Oh, if he goes rook e7, then the knight hangs. If he goes rook d8, then this pawn hangs. Okay, yeah. So it does look pretty good for me, to say the least. So it should still be winning, but it takes a little bit more work. But he just resigns here, so yeah, I mean, definitely a losing position for black. So overall, I think I'm kind of, even though thinking for 35 minutes is usually a bad thing, in this case, I actually it paid off. Well, paid off in the sense that my calculation was accurate and I had a lot of fun doing it, and I won the game. So it worked out in that sense. But with that being said, I'll end it here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I'll hit the game review.